Hello and welcome. We are broadcasting live from GlobalNutriPreneurs, the premier global gateway and unified operating system transforming the future of global agri-food economy. Today, the global food system stands at a critical crossroads. While the demand for functional health, wellness, and nutritional security is expanding exponentially, early-stage innovators face massive roadblocks. Fragmented supply chains, opaque cross-border regulations, and the staggering volume of unvetted noise that isolates brilliant founders from institutional capital. The cost of this friction isn't just measured in lost revenue. It is measured in the unacceptably high rate of global food waste and systematic nutritional insecurity. Promoted by the Global Council for the Agri-Food Trade and Innovation and the Global Council for the Promotion of International Trade, Global Nutripreneurs was engineered to dismantle these barriers. They are moving decisively past passive business directories. Powered by a robust digital operating system featuring AI-driven founder mentor matching, automated regulatory compliance hubs, and an integrated virtual deal room, they are systematically transforming high-potential ventures into scalable investment-grade new to businesses. Our ecosystem operates across 6 integrated strategic pillars, uniting a dedicated global R&D network, shared physical infrastructure via decentralized common facility centers, and an ESG-compliant trade and investment marketplace. Right now, our team is executing a massive global pipeline evaluation, reviewing over 10,000 agriculture, food, and nutrition businesses across more than 150 countries. Our mission is clear: to uncover the elite innovators shaping the next era of wellness, unlock friction-free global market access, and actively drive a 40% reduction in global post-harvest food losses. Today, as part of our Women in Food, Agriculture, and Nutrition Forum series, we are mapping out the blueprints for this agriculture revolution. Joining us is a leader whose work sits at the very frontier of this transformation. Please welcome to the global stage our guest for today, Rachel Lai, is the founder of Bridge Impact, a Singapore-based digital capacity building consultancy helping NGOs, social enterprises, MSMEs, and community organizations across Southeast Asia and Africa adopt practical, accessible digital and AI tools to strengthen their operations and scale their impact. Over the past 12 plus months, Rachel developed an AI-powered chatbot integrated into the Lao National Chamber of Commerce and Industries website, which has facilitated hundreds of inquiries from international companies exploring trade and investment opportunities in Laos. She also supports the dual cooperative training program at the Lao National Chamber of Commerce, working directly with institutions to train teachers and professionals nationwide on digital tools and AI-assisted teaching methods. Rachel is currently developing a digital ambassador program, a train-the-trainer model that equips local champions with practical digital and AI skills, enabling them to independently build websites, create AI-assisted multimedia content, and set up AI chatbots to support trade facilitation, customer engagement, and market access for micro, small, and medium enterprises. Thank you for joining us today to help shape the future of global entrepreneurs. I now request you to kindly proceed with your presentation. Over to you.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me. Let me share the slides first. Okay, good afternoon, Santosh, and warm greetings to the Global NutriPreneurs Networks and the Global Council for Agri-Food Trade and Innovation. My name is Rachel Lai, and I'm the founder of Bridge Impact. It's a digital capacity building consultancy based in Singapore. As shown on slide 1, I work with NGOs, business chambers, and technical training institutes, and community organizations, helping them adopt practical digital and AI tools to strengthen their operations and build sustainable livelihoods and sustain their impacts on the ground. Before I go further, let me be upfront about where I speak from. I am not a traditional development specialist, and I'm not an agronomist, and I don't work in government policy, and I don't represent a large funding agency. Although I frequently come into contact with these persons, right, because of my work, right? I specialize in bridging organizations together. That's my background, okay? So what I bring you today is a working digital model. It's tested at the Chamber of Commerce and at the institutional level, and a genuine understanding of what farmer vulnerability tools looks like up close. So I want to be honest with you about this, okay? Much of the world, as we know, still lives without reliable access to quality education, and it's very concerning and relevant skills for young people or capital. All right. Development aid has to stretch across so many sectors and regions that equitable access is nearly impossible by design. Okay. So while policymakers and funding agencies play an essential role, a project only creates lasting change once it's been adopted and adapted into something that actually works on the ground. On slide 2, right, this illustrates what I call the capital versus the visibility gap. When attempting to connect an outside investor, a corporate buyer, or a green funder to a good local project, the local project owners often have deep community trust, strong local relationships, and real ambition. What they lack is a reliable way to show what is actually happening in real time. Investors and green financing partners would really be more confident when when they are able to see real-time, visual, trackable progress. All right, what they call the measurable impact metrics that is written often in proposals. A pilot alone isn't enough, okay, without an operational digital foundation underneath it. Without that foundation, good projects with strong local partners can get passed over, not for lack of merit, but for lack of visibility. Now, let's look at slide 3, which outlines my actual ground level case studies and strategic partnerships that I have carried out. Let me walk you through what I've actually built, because I want to give you the technical details and not just the concept. All right, I've developed an AI-powered chatbot for the Laos National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. It handles cross-border trade inquiries. When people ask about the technical hurdles of building a tool like this, my first answer is that I'm not a traditional software developer. And in today's world, you don't need to be one. We built this tool using Demagi's Open Chat Studio. It's a donor-supported non-profit social enterprise platform specifically designed to ensure equitable access to AI for emerging economies. Because our client group in developing markets cannot afford monthly software fees, this partnership allows us to deploy AI at zero cost to them right now. The real deployment bottleneck in this region isn't coding, it's operational readiness on the ground. In many emerging market institutions, local IT teams or administrators lack the familiarity to handle back-end website integrations. Handing over code and waiting guarantees it will sit unused. To solve this, we obtain permission to enter their backends directly, handle the deployment ourselves, and ensure the tool stays live, whether on their site or hosted as subdomains on ours. Over the past 12 months, the chatbot has handled hundreds of trade inquiries. The next layer we are expanding is structured profiles for member companies, so the AI-assisted chatbot can match incoming trade inquiries directly to local businesses. At the institutional level, I facilitated a connection between ITE Singapore. Is our primary public institute for technical education and workforce upskilling. That's ITE. With the Laos National Chamber of Commerce, specifically because the Chamber's dual cooperative training department coordinates private sector skills placement for vocational schools in Laos. All right, and I also helped structure a link between capital infrastructure, Keppel Infrastructure is a major listed Singapore energy conglomerate. I connected it with solar and wind projects in Laos. Working alongside those local project owners showed me directly how a lack of operational capacity kept otherwise strong projects from being genuinely shovel-ready for private investors. I also connected Laos State Power Utility, EDL, to the NDC partnership. It's a global platform coordinating climate finance, where I spoke with several international climate funders and development agencies directly. There, what I saw was the exceptionally high standard global funders hold projects too, and a real capability gap that exists even inside government ministries, not just at the community level. Separately, I want to share an experience that shaped how I think about this work, even though it wasn't a digital project at all some years ago. I supported a small group of farmers in the villages, in the very remote and rural villages in the south of Laos. I support them by supplying fruit tree seedlings. It's a very small project, right? And some financial support to help them get started and help them I stay engaged with them through the growing process. I would go back and visit them every 2 or 3 months, So that's how I stay engaged with them and watch them. So first, I'm not an agronomist, and my role there was just as a supporter, not as a technical advisor, but I saw many things on the ground. That experience taught me something no case study could. I watched their funds and their crops get wiped out by fire, by flood. I saw that they had no irrigation and they totally depended on a single rain-fed season every year. This means that if they have a bad season, it could set their family back for years. I saw how that trapped them in a cycle they had no real way out of, and how completely unbanked and invisible to the former system they were. That experience is what motivates me to find a solution of a workable model all these years, right? It's not an evidence that I've already built a digital ecosystem for farmers, but it is what prompts me to keep finding a workable digital ecosystem and how to build that. What I have is a model proven right now at the trade chamber and at the institutional level, and a first-hand understanding of exactly what smallholder farmers are up against. Today, I want to make the case for bringing these two things together, and I'm looking for partners who already work directly with farming communities to help make that happen. In slide 4, it shows the self-sustainable cooperative loop that I realized. Okay, here is the technical mechanic behind this model that I'm thinking, and that's what I want to share with you, and how it would translate to a farming cooperative where your focus is, right? And AI-assisted trade chatbot works as a 24-hour customer service and knowledge layer. As the number of members in the ecosystem that we're going to build uses it and grow, and they will become genuinely attractive to sponsors like corporate partners, downstream buyers, or agri-input companies. This will be willing to support such a platform because it gives them direct access to a large, engaged network of local businesses. That sponsorship revenue is what lets the platform keep growing on its own, independent of any single grant cycle. Excuse me. And critically, that same private sector revenue can be redirected to cross-subsidize the parts of the ecosystem that don't generate their own income. In a farming cooperative's case, that means funding continued training for members, for farmers, or supporting these farmers towards formal banking and credit access. Okay, applied to a cooperative specifically, picture a chatbot, an AI-assisted chatbot, okay, built for its members, available in the local language, working even in low connectivity rural areas because it syncs whenever a signal is available. It will be fed with the cooperative's own training content, agronomy guidance from existing extension partners, market prices, financing options, climate resilience practices. So a farmer could ask a question at any hour and get an answer grounded in what the cooperative already teaches. At the same time, it would build structured profiles of member farmers, so buyers and financing partners could find and trust them directly. As members gain visibility and trade connection, real value gets created. Better prices, new buyers, financing access, and because it's a cooperative, that value is shared among the members, sustaining further capacity building without total dependence on the next grant cycle. Okay, next. Here is what I'd like to offer my honest assessment on slide 5. Because I think the ground is shifting faster than most development planning accounts for. From my time on the ground all these years, I've come to believe that poverty in many emerging economies isn't only a story of systemic barriers. The lack of, like for example, the lack of irrigation, the climate shocks, and the thin access to capital, I described a moment ago. It's also in part a story of a mindset that decades of aid-dependent development have reinforced. It's a habit of waiting for the next program, the next grant, the next external factor to arrive with a solution. I say this with real respect for the resilience I have personally witnessed. Not criticism of the people living through it. It is the system around them that shaped that expectation. But I believe the shift our sector needs most over the next 3 to 5 years is from a dependency mindset towards one of local ownership and agency. A digital foundation that a cooperative owns permanently, not one that arrives and lives with a project. It's one concrete way to make that shift real rather than just aspirational. That shift is also becoming urgent for practical reasons. Many emerging market agricultural programs are still built on the assumption of steady development aid. I don't think that assumption holds for the next 3 to 5 years. Since the Middle East conflict started in February 2026, the Strait of Hormuz, the corridor carrying roughly a fifth of the world's oil and close to a third of global fertilizer trade, has been under direct strain. Fertilizer prices has risen by roughly a third to date this year alone. The World Bank's most recent food security outlook projects that severe food insecurity will pass 1 billion people by 2028. Sudan in Africa now has confirmed famine condition. This is unfolding now and is compounding with the climate volatility that is already reducing yields. The fire, the flood, the single rain-fed season I described are not isolated stories. They are becoming the norm across exactly the region your network works in. At the same time, humanitarian and development funding is under real pressure globally. That is precisely why I believe a farmer cooperative that has built its own digital foundation, its own knowledge hub, its own trade visibility, its own verifiable record of production is better placed to withstand the uncertainty. It has a channel to buyers, financiers, climate funds that keeps functioning whether or not aid flows are steady that year. This also matters directly for the agri-tech founders in this network, in your networks. The global NutriPreneurs bringing genuinely advanced technology into rural communities through funded projects. I ask you to consider, after your program ends, can local farmers actually afford the ongoing subscription? Can they maintain the software once your team has moved on? If the answer is no, the knowledge and the technology you introduce risk being lost the moment the funding cycle closes. The fix isn't to avoid bringing in strong technology. It's to make sure the knowledge and the workflow behind it get captured in accessible, non-proprietary formats that the community can keep using without being locked into your platform indefinitely. The tools that make all of this possible have also changed dramatically across every relevant sector. FinTech, AgTech, Climate Tech, Clean Tech, and Agri-Tech all alike. Building a shared knowledge hub used to require months of custom software development, a team of coders, and a real budget. Today, low-code and no-code platforms let you build a working app visually in minutes. With no boat LM, we can take a dense agricultural manual or a NGO training guide and instantly turn it into an interactive training module, a set of FAQs, or a localized audio guide for farmers who may not read comfortably in the language it was written in. We can deploy AI chatbots as 24-hour support agent without writing a line of code. And we can build several distinct AI conversation flows off the same foundation. One tune for trade inquiries, one for teaching and training content, one for general community engagement. Language barriers are effectively gone. A farmer can take a smartphone, point Google Lens at a crop, a document, or a piece of equipment, and ask Gemini questions in their native dialect or native language to get immediate answers. Digital empowerment for smallholders is no longer gated by cost or technical skills. I have seen this firsthand. At the Vocational Education Development Institute in Laos, I ran workshops training technical college instructors and IT department heads on exactly these tools. Going in, I expected it to be slow going. Most of them had never used AI to build anything. Instead, when I asked them on the spot to create a course website or build multimedia teaching content, they did it fast. And they were genuinely surprised at themselves. What used to take real technical skill now takes a conversation with the right AI tool. That's not a farmer audience, right? I know, but it tells me the barrier that used to stand between the not technical and building something real has largely collapsed. I believe farmers can catch this just as quickly, especially once a small group of them master it and start showing the rest of the community what's now possible. The barrier that remains is simply whether someone shows a cooperative how to use it and connects that effort to a program already working with farmers on the ground. So how would this actually scale? On slide 6, we outline 4 core principles drawn from what's worked at the chamber and the institutional level and what translates directly to a farming context. First, a zero lock-in tech stack. No expensive enterprise contracts. For data capture, we use standard Google Forms and Sheets. These run on a basic smartphone, work offline in the field, and sync automatically once the connection is available. Let's get specific about the data. A farmer or field agent open a simple app sheet, mobile form, or a Google form on a basic smartphone. Even with zero cellular reception, they log their daily inputs, fertilizer application, soil moisture notes, pest observation, expected harvest dates, and crop yields. In low bandwidth regions where farmers lack smartphone, a designated digital ambassador logs the field data using paper forms and syncs it into Google Sheets whenever they hit cellular coverage. The data saved locally and syncs automatically to the central database. For automation, AppScript sends reminders and updates by SMS, WhatsApp, or email directly to basic phones. With Gemini built into these tools via plain language, a cooperative officer can ask, "Show me all farmers harvesting organic maize next week," example, and instantly generate a buyer report without writing code. On slide 7, the digital ambassador model. We cannot train an entire cooperative directly, and I wouldn't try. My role starts online, training to a small group of tech-comfortable local members as master trainers. These are the digital ambassadors who will run the day-to-day digital activity on the ground, managing the knowledge hub, entering data on behalf of the less tech-comfortable members or farmers, building sub-website using Google AI Studio, and keeping the system alive long after outside involvement step back. I explained the vision and process to the partner organization from the outset, but the starting point is deliberately small, practical, and remote. Third, on slide 8, closing the compliance gap. This is the pattern I saw clearly at the institutional level. Major downstream corporations and supply chain leaders increasingly need their local suppliers to comply with international quality and traceability standards. And the more sophisticated ones now actively extend their compliance training down into their supply chain. Smallholder farmers are frequently locked out of higher value markets, not because their produce is inferior, but because they can't demonstrate that traceability. When those evolving buyer requirements can be captured inside a cooperative's shared knowledge hub, extension officers and digital ambassadors can train the members and farmers against real current standards, directly increasing which market those farmers can sell into. Crucially, once a training or compliance module is created for one region, it remains hosted in our shared network repository, allowing other regional groups across Southeast Asia or Africa or any regions to access and reuse it without duplicating costs. That same industry knowledge flows to the technical and vocational educational colleges, upgrading curricula so graduates step into direct employment. Fourth, on slide 9, digital representation for the unbanked. Most smallholders have no formal financial record because they cannot afford full-time accountant. By tracking basic operations, inventory, yields, sales transactions, and profit margins in simple sheets and app sheet interfaces, we automatically generate a verifiable digital footprint. That activity log is what banks, commercial buyers, and climate funds actually need to assess creditworthiness and certify a farmer for green financing. And as shown on slide 10, designing for project exit and bankability. Every one of these elements is designed from day one for the exit. Because it lives in zero lock-in standard tools, data collection continues seamlessly after outside involvement ends. The cooperative owns its own data permanently with zero subscription dependency. Slide 11 illustrates the connected regional ecosystem, showing upstream growers, micro enterprises, vocational and technical colleges, and buyers linked through one shared hub, turning grant-dependent projects into a resilient local economy. On slide 12, I summarize our 5 core principles for last mile scaling. Build people before platform. Technology without local skills creates no lasting impact. 2. Keep solutions simple. Complex enterprise system gets abandoned. Simple mobile tools get adopted. 3. Train local champions. Rely on digital ambassadors to drive local adoption. 4. Build cross-sector partnership. Connect education, business, and green developers to share capacity. 5. Measure adoption, not uptake. Track long-term behavioral change and continuous tool usage, not just initial registration. To close on slide 13, I want to be specific about what I'm asking for, because I think that's more useful than a general pitch. I'm looking to partner with organizations in your network who already run an active program with farming communities, perhaps an NGO, a cooperative, an agri-tech initiative already happening on the ground. I'm not proposing to build a new farmer program from scratch. I'm proposing to insert a digital empowerment layer into a program that already exists and already has trust with its farmers. I'm also very open to working alongside development agencies, chambers of commerce, and agri-tech innovators more broadly across this ecosystem. Whenever there is a genuine gap between ground-level trust and the digital visibility that trust deserves. Practically, that partnership would start small and remote. We could train a first group of digital ambassadors online, using your existing training content as the foundation before anything else is built. From there, we'll grow the model together with your organization on the ground, relationship doing what we can't from Singapore. And our role focus on the digital and AI layer. If you're running a program like that and this visibility gap is one that you recognize, we'll like to talk together with you. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Rachel Lai of Bridge Impact, and also leave my details with Santosh and Grinshika and the team here. Thank you very much. Okay, just as AI acts as an assistant, right, that bridges my technical models directly to you today, AI and low-code digital solutions are the bridges that will connect the vast unserved last-mile communities to global capital, commercial markets, and supportive policy frameworks. The future of food security won't be shaped by aid flows alone. Those flows are going to become less certain. It will be shaped by whether the farmers closest to the ground have a digital foundation they own, built together with the organizations already earning their trust and rooted in agency rather than dependency. Thank you very much. And thank you to the GlobalNutriPreneurs community. Hand over to you, Grinshika.
Thank you, Rachel, for sharing your valuable insights with the Global Entrepreneurs community. That was an engaging and thought-provoking presentation. I'd now like to ask you a few questions to dive a little deeper into your experience and perspective. Okay, so many international development programs introduce digital tools that suffer from low long-term adoption once funding cycles end. Based on your experience with Bridge Impact across Southeast Asia and Africa, what are the primary structural barriers to sustainable adoption, and how does your methodology ensure lasting local ownership?
The main reason these digital tools get abandoned is that traditional development aid projects often bring in big, expensive technology with huge plans and big donor projects. But it's not that there's not that this is wrong. It's not that it's all right. It's not that. But the problem is that once this project ends, the impact was only measured up to that final day and nothing after the project. They leave behind complex tools that require paid subscription that small businesses and local groups simply cannot afford to maintain. My methodology fixes this by sticking to low cost, easy to use tools that people already have access to. I mainly focus on using Google Workspace tools like Sheets, Forms, Sites, and AppSheet. To make sure it lasts, all right, it should have zero login and free platform. We use free Google tools or non-profit social enterprise platform, so there are no subscription fees waiting to trip them up when funding stops. Focus on real business needs. I am a small business owner myself in Singapore, and for many years. So I know what a struggling business needs. We build tools that save them time and money, like logging inventory, tracking sales, and managing deliveries on their phones. And thirdly, local digital ambassadors. Instead of trying to teach everyone directly, we train local ambassadors who know their communities well, best and well. They take over the system, help their members who aren't tech savvy, and keep it going locally.
Thank you for sharing that perspective. That's a very valuable insight. Building on that, I'd like to move to my next question. So you've successfully developed and deployed an AI-powered chat box for the Lao National Chamber of Commerce, an industry that handles international trade inquiries. What were the key technical and localization challenges in building an AI tool tailored for cross-border trade, and how do you measure its tangible economic impact?
Okay, first I want to be clear, I'm not a developer or a tech specialist, but with AI today, you really do not need to be one. I built this chatbot on Dimagi's Open Chat Studio. Dimagi is a donor-supported social enterprise company, and their goal is to give people equitable access to AI. Because my clients are emerging country groups who cannot afford to pay, Dimagi generously provides the platform for free to me, and I likewise provide the chatbot service for free to my clients as of now. Building the chatbot itself wasn't the hard part. You just learn how to write the prompts, set up the knowledge base, and insert it onto a website. The real localization challenge was working with the local IT personnel or departments in these emerging countries. They often don't even know how to handle basic website administration. If I gave them the code and asked them to work with me to put it into their website, they couldn't do it. So my practical solution was to get their permission, go into their website backends directly, and deploy the chatbot for them. Alternatively, I host their website as subdomains under my own domain, which makes it easier for me to deploy and manage the chatbot for them.
Okay, that's a very interesting way to look at it. Moving on to our next question. Your digital ambassador program uses a train the trainer framework to equip local champions with AI and digital skills. How do you design this curricula so that the local micro enterprises and non-technical stakeholders can rapidly move from basic digital literacy to independently deploying AI-assisted marketing websites and chatbots?
I start by understanding what the client group actually needs. For example, when I train school leaders and teachers at the VEDI, the Vocational Education Development Institute in Laos, I taught them Google Workspace for education, like Sheets, excuse me, Forms, Google Sites, Looker Studio for real-time analytics, and how to convert slides into videos for YouTube, because that serves their exact daily needs. For small business owners and light engineering groups, they are very busy and they can't afford full-time accountants. So we focus on inventory and financial readiness. Inventory to mobile apps. We set up a Google Sheet for inventory and sales format the data and turn it into an app sheet app so that they can log inventory and deliveries right on their phone. Building creditworthiness for financing. Banks need to see a track record. By logging inventory, sales, revenues, and profit margins in activity logs, small business owners create a checkable track record to prove their creditworthiness for bank financing. AI-assisted websites and marketing. Building a website used to be a huge hurdle in the informal economy because of time, cost, and technical knowledge. Now, using Google AI Studio, they use natural language to write the code and put it into Google site or host it as a subdomain under my website, our website. In my workshop, school directors were able to build their own website setup in under an hour.
Thank you for highlighting that. That leads us nicely to the next topic. Operating across diverse regions like Laos and Tanzania presents distinct regulatory, linguistic, and digital infrastructure landscapes. How do you adapt Bridge Impact's core capacity building frameworks to fit varied local microbusinesses ecosystems while maintaining program quality and scalability?
I'd like to share this with you. My training in Laos, where I focused in the last many years, all right, more than 10 years. Laos is a landlocked and one of the poorest, least resourced places in Southeast Asia. It shows me how far behind are some communities. And it taught me to start from the absolute basics. When it comes to maintaining program quality and scalability across different regions, it always comes back to meeting the direct needs of the local clients. You cannot force a program onto a community if it doesn't fit what they actually need. That's why we work directly with trusted local groups like chambers of commerce for the private sector, education institutes for teachers, or local cooperatives for agriculture. They know their members' needs best. As we scale, how do we keep quality high without relying on expensive top-down development aid that disappears when the project ends? We build a shared ecosystem. Different groups have different capacities, knowledge, and skills. When someone visits the Lao National Chamber website, for example, they get introduced to my own website, and they see the value that we bring to them. As we expand and build this ecosystem, groups in different regions can access the same shared knowledge hub. This means that we don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. Skills, training programs, and digital capabilities developed in one region can be accessed and reused by other regions. Even big downstream companies and supply chain partners can contribute their training manuals and compliance requirements to this shared knowledge hub. This is how we maintain quality and scale, by creating a self-sustaining ecosystem where different groups share their expertise, use accessible tools, and support each other long after a traditional funding cycle ends.
Those are some excellent points. Let's explore another important aspect. GlobalNutriPreneurs brings together innovators, investors, and policymakers across agri-tech, nutrition, and agri-food systems. How do you envision Bridge Impact partnering with GlobalNutriPreneurs, specifically through your Digital Ambassador program, to help early-stage agri-food and nutrition ventures build digital presence, leverage AI for trade facilitation, and achieve bankable market traction?
Having worked across renewable energy, trade, and community projects, I've seen firsthand that the biggest bottleneck isn't a lack of big program, ideas, or tech. It is the massive capacity gap on the ground at the last mile. For the policy makers in your network, this is my sincere message to them. Before investors' capital can flow effectively, and before innovators' agri-tech or nutritional solutions can take root, policymakers must recognize the need to allocate fiscal budget directly to ground-level digital capacity building. There are many development initiatives out there, but the missing link is real digital enablement and empowerment from the grassroots up. Without that operational foundation, even the best innovations will struggle to get off the ground. That is why I'm using this speech to pitch a model for how Bridge Impact, our business, can partner with GlobalNutriPreneurs, building a shared knowledge hub. I'm proposing that we build a shared knowledge hub where downstream corporate players, nutrition experts, and buyers can deposit their actual training manuals and export compliance guidelines. Instead of every venture reinventing the wheel, local groups across Southeast Asia or Africa can tap into this real market tested standard. 2. Cross-regional skill sharing. Under this proposed framework, capacity and training modules built for one region can be adapted and reused by other regions across your networks or our shared networks, narrowing the skill gap without multiplying cost. Number 3, data-driven operations for bankability. Through our Digital Ambassador program, we can work directly with your early-stage agri-food ventures to help them set up simple Google Sheets and App Sheet tracking for their daily inventory, yields, sales, operation, etc. This creates the transparent, trackable data trails that investors and commercial banks need to see before extending to them credit or green financing. I'm not claiming we already have a fully built global platform. I am proposing a proven practical model. Digitalization enables capacity building, and low-cost AI is the bridge that can connect these unserved last-mile ventures directly to innovators, global trade, and investors.
I think that gives our audience a lot to reflect on. What an incredible masterclass of a conversation. Thank you for sharing your blueprints with us today. Your profound insights reinforce exactly why GlobalNutriPreneurs exists, to bridge the critical gap between commercial profitability and sustainable social impact. To everyone tuning in across our global network, whether you're an innovator, an investor, or a policymaker, the path to plugging into this unified agri-food operating system is clear. For agri-food entrepreneurs and founders, stop struggling in isolation. Fast-track your venture through our customized scaling pathways, leverage our AI-driven mentor matching, and utilize our automated regulatory compliance hubs to make your business cross-border ready. For accredited investors, eliminate the noise of unvetted pipelines. Access our pre-evaluated investment-grade nutri-businesses directly through our integrated virtual deal room and secure your stake in the next era of health and wellness. For industrial and academic partners, collaborate with us. Let's unlock deep tech innovation through our global agri-food, nutrition, research, and development forum and actively build a more equitable ecosystem by championing leadership at a Women in Food, Agriculture, and Nutrition forum. Together, we can maximize our global networks and deploy decentralized common facility centers to actively drive that 40% reduction in global post-harvest food losses. The future of the global agri-food economy is no longer about survival. It is about the sustainable nutrition, scientific excellence, and friction-free global trade. Visit globalnutripreneurs.com to secure your application, verify your venture, and claim your place in the future of food innovation. Thank you for joining us on Global Nutripreneurs. Until next time, keep innovating, keep scaling, and build with impact. Thank you. Have a good day.